Well, good evening. This is kind of a weird shade of blue that I'm broadcasting in with a brilliant white light in the background. That could mean something rather mystical if you read it the wrong way. But I just wanted to comment on some of the things that I heard on the other site on Blog TV. And not that I heard, but that I read from some of the people that responded to me during my broadcast. And just to ramble on a little bit, the whole idea of independent thinking is to inform one's own opinions any way you can with as much information as you can consume and internalize, so that when you are listening to somebody in authority, you can make an educated question and ask an educated question as to whether what they are saying is actually true, and if so, how is it true, and where did the information come from? If we as citizens can somehow break through the cordon and do that by just asking that question, that brings pressure to bear on political leadership and gets them to start thinking that, well, I guess they're not going to keep their mouths shut and do what they're told anymore. And that's very frightening to a political leader. So they have to make one of two choices. Either they have to institute the Patriot Act and throw everybody in jail that asks a question out of line that it doesn't have press credentials, or they have to start being proactive with the public and start asking us what it is that we want and figure out how to get it to us. And right now, that's not being done at all. The whole argument over health care, as far as I can see, is how to enrich the top insurance carriers with an awful lot of taxpayers' dollars, just as the top investment banks have been enriched by taxpayer dollars, even though some of them may have given some of it back to the government. To me, that's what they call a kickback, and if I did it, that would be illegal, and I'd be thrown in jail for that. So we have a lot of crimes being committed, but they are legal crimes because the people in power get to write the laws. They get to say what goes, and they do it in a lot of different ways. It's very interesting. One of the things that interests me most is the idea of how we're fed and how we get food, what it is that we eat, and how much. And one documentary that I would recommend in that subject is King Corn, which deals with the idea of how much corn is grown in this country and what it is actually used for. How corn is used to feed cattle in an enclosed environment so that they come to market weight within 3 to 4 months. If it's any longer than that, especially at 6 months, they get sick and die because they eat so much of this corn and corn silage and so forth in an enclosed area where they can't really move around and do anything other than just eat, that their stomach doesn't digest it all, and then this stuff produces an acid and really just eats them up from the inside. It's pretty horrible stuff. Studies have been done on it to show exactly how long a cow can eat this stuff and not move around or burn it off by walking around in a pasture, say. Now, pasture-fed cattle, what they call free-ranging cattle, I guess, they eat grass, they move around, they're constantly on the move. When you call them into the barn at night, they have to come from wherever they are in the field and walk into the barn. So they're walking back and forth, moving about, sometimes bumping into each other and playing and whatever. And they don't come up to market weight, though, for a couple of years. And that doesn't make anybody any money. Now, from there, you've got this corn-fed beef that has been very rapidly fattened over a period of a few months, and then is slaughtered and then ground up into hamburger and sold at McDonald's or Burger King or something like that with a tremendous amount of fat in it. Whereas free-ranging cattle, the meat from that even tastes different, looks different, the texture is different. doesn't have as much fat, about a fifth of the fat that enclosed-fed cattle have. So these are the kinds of things that you learn when you watch these documentaries, and some of these guys are pretty dedicated. I mean, they go into great detail to inform the viewers as to what it is they're doing, why they're doing it. These two guys decided to buy an acre of ground and grow corn on it just to answer these very basic questions as to where their corn goes and what happens to it and what it does and how it affects the public consumption. Another documentary I watched was Bigger, Stronger, and Faster, about the effect of steroids in sports and the fact that it is so prevalent that those that are famous and that have been very successful, say like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's governor of California, has been, he has touted physical fitness and various other things and exercise programs, but he himself couldn't have gotten where he got in the weightlifting field without taking steroids. And he had fully admitted to that. Other people, you'll find them saying the same things. I don't know that, I'm not going to comment and say whether that's good or bad. I really, at a certain point, a person needs to take a choice and decide on the risks themselves, if there are any, and ask themselves, what is it that I want out of this? If I want a $120 million contract over a period of 5 years, say, and if I want that, and all it takes is a few steroids, is it not worth it? And maybe even the possibility of it doing me any harm may very well be limited. May not be any harm in it, especially if it's under the direction of a physician and it's very carefully administered. And I watch myself. I got $120 million coming my way. And if I bang up my knee halfway through and I still get the contract money, then I'm set for life. So this is an extreme case, of course, just like when I was talking about PTSD. But it is one of the considerations to take when you're talking about steroids. There's a tremendous amount of money to be made in professional sports, and the more money that you make, the more that you are thought of, the more access you have, the more personal power. And I would say it becomes a way in which people grade themselves on success. I saw an interview once with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, I think it was in the late 80s when this was done. Might have been the early 90s. And the two of them said that we're talking about how, after a while, money by itself doesn't make any difference. It's a way that you grade your success. So if the last film brought you in $20 million, that's great, that's fine, because that's more than the film before that. Then the next film brings you 30, and then 40, and so on. And that's how they grade themselves. Very interesting. The world just never ceases to fascinate me, how people think, how people, the different levels of power and influence, how the waves and eddies and currents go countering each other. I just can't get enough of it. Anyhow, that's it for me tonight. I'm going to upload this to my YouTube account, and hopefully some of you will watch it. And we'll get into a discussion on Blog TV maybe some night about it.